Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to everyone. Today I'm going to deliver the lecture on chapter 3, the topic called social economic issues. As you can see right there, the date for today is 20th of April 2020. So before we begin, I think it is good for us to look at the overview of the chapter 3. So this topic is divided into two subsections called poverty and also education and human capital. So this slide is designed specifically for poverty, meaning that the subsection education and human capital will be discussed in another slide. So under the poverty, subtopic poverty, we have two things. First is the trend of poverty since independence, and number two, causes and the measures to solve the poverty. So I'm talking about the solution to tackle the problem of poverty. Now, actually, when we talk about socio-economic issue, we are talking about some issues that has to do with the economy, and it actually not only affect your economic lifestyle, it also affect your social lifestyle. So it could be poverty, it could be income imbalance, it could be the education, and so on and so forth. But the discussion is limited to this subtopic, poverty and education and human capital, because they are the most important thing in the current days. Okay, so let's move to the next part called lesson plan. So we are a bit late than our schedule, so supposedly we talk about the subsection number 2, but it is still okay. So as you can see, we are in the week 5, and we're supposed to discuss this topic in week 4, in 13th of April to 17th of April. Okay, now let's begin with the first part called poverty. Now, so to talk about poverty, I think it's best to begin with the definition of poverty. And as far as I know, there is no single country in this world that be able to free themselves from poverty. So poverty always coexists with development. Now, according to the economic planning unit of Prime Minister Department, poverty is defined as minimum need basket required to sustain an average household at the survival level. So basically we're talking about the things that are needed to survive. So it could be a basic essential good right there, and also can be a non-food item that needed to maintain our standard of living. So this component, this what we call poverty line income, must actually include 3 components, namely food expenditure, secondly clothing and footwear expenditure, and the third is other non-food expenditure. Why are these 3 things? Because these three things are needed for us to survive. Food, of course we need food. Clothes, of course we need the food and footwear. So, and the last could be the other non-food could be the shelter and also the transportation. So we must include all these 3 elements into our definition of poverty, as well as the designing the poverty line income in order to cater the poor people. So we move to the next part called the trend of poverty. So the trend of poverty, starting from 1970 until 2016, of course we have the recent data, but of course it is not possible for us to collect all data every year. Okay, so as you can see, the poverty is divided into a few categories. Okay, you can look poverty as overall. I mean, you look at the Malaysia. Then you can look poverty according to the ethnicity group. Okay, or races, where you have Bumi, Chinese, Indian, and also you may look at this poverty by strata, where we look at the urban versus rural, or maybe the poverty across the states that we have in Malaysia. So let's begin with the Malaysia. The poverty in Malaysia in 1970 is 49.3%, and as the time passed, we be able to reduce the poverty. For example, in 2002, it reduced to 6.0, and 2016 we have managed to reduce it to 0.4%. So this is a big achievement for a small country like Malaysia. Why? Because as you can see right there, when we have 49.3% in 1970, it simply means that in 1970 about half of the population live in poverty, about half of the population, so it is a big number. But as the time passed, only 0.4% of the total population live in poverty, so it is a big success for the Malaysia. Now if you look at the ethnicity, you can look at the poverty across the three major races. Okay, so we have Bumi, Chinese, and also Indian. Now if you look at the trend, I mean, if you compare across these three races, you actually can rank them. Okay, so the highest poverty mostly came from Bumiputra. Okay, then it is followed by Indian, and the last one would be Chinese. And the trend remained the same for the last 10 years. Okay, as you can see, 2014, the poverty rate still highest among the Bumiputra, and it is followed by the Indian community, and also the last one is Chinese. So we cannot change the structure, but in terms of the trend, we'll be able to reduce the poverty. For example, Bumiputra, among the Bumiputra community in 1970, about 64.8% of them live in poverty. So more than half of the population of Malay live in poverty in 1970. But in 2014, or let's say 2016, only 0.5% of Bumiputra live in poverty. So it's a big success. And then we look at the strata. You can see right there, the strata is divided into two. The first one, urban, and the second one is rural. Now, if you compare between these two regions, obviously the poverty in rural area is higher than the poverty in the urban area. That can be seen in any year, okay, in 1970 or 2016. So it's obviously poverty in rural area. So it is higher than the urban area because it has to do with the activity, economic activity that exists in the rural and urban area. Mostly in rural area, they are involved in agriculture, okay, fisheries. All right. As for the urban area, most of them involved in the service sectors and also manufacturing sectors. So they will earn more than the people that live in the rural area. Now, so look at the poverty in urban area, 21.3% in 1970. It reduced to 0.2% in 2016 in terms of urban area. In the rural area, in 1970, the poverty was about 58.7%, but in 2016, it reduced to 1.0%. So it's also a big success. In terms of states, you can actually rank the state according to the the mean income of the people live in that state. So obviously, states such as Selangor, right, such as Kuala Lumpur, right? We don't have the data about in 1976. We have got the data only on 2000. Let's say we talk about 1979 here. So 1984 here. So you can see that the poverty rate in Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur was quite low. In terms of poverty in other states such as Johor, it's also quite low. Here you can see that it is around 11.1. But state such as Kedah, Kelantan, you can see Terengganu, Sabah, Sarawak, the percentage of poverty are quite high. But as the time passes, we be able to reduce the poverty rate. So it is a good effort taken by government to reduce the poverty. Okay, now so basically this is the explanation about the data that we have just now, so I don't want to talk about that now. So if you look at the poverty trend just now, actually it comes to our mind that what actually caused to the poverty. So basically there are a few things that we need to understand. That in this discussion, I don't separate the poverty according to the strata. I don't talk about poverty in rural or urban. I don't talk about poverty among the Malay or among the Chinese. I simply I simply use the general explanation across different races or different region in terms of identifying the causes of the poverty. So number one, the causes of poverty is actually the rapid rate of industrialization in the country. Now, what does it mean by the rapid rate of industrialization? Some of states in Malaysia, they have experienced a faster economic growth as compared to the other states. For example, Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Johor, Penang. These states are considered as a developed state. Okay, so it attracts people to migrate to this urban area, to KL, to Selangor, right? For the higher paying job. Okay, so basically this actually this actually will lead to the other problem. What is the other problem? The only person that live in the rural area are those that we call as senior citizens. And we know that senior citizens are old, they are no longer productive in economy, and this actually lead to the poverty because the children no longer stay with them, they have their own life, so these old citizens, they have to live on their own. They have to feed themselves and they're no longer productive, so they cannot work. They cannot work from 8 to 5, let's say. They cannot devote all their effort to feed themselves because they are old. So I'm talking about the inability in terms of physical. So that's lead to the poverty. And number two, in terms of the rapid rate of inflation, this will lead to the what we call pushes the prices of essential goods up, and this will cause to the decline in real purchasing power. Meaning that in the rural area, you can see that also in the urban area, when there is a rapid growth of industrialization, it leads to the inflation. Why? Because for some reason, when people move the urban area, so there are many people there, and of course when there are many people, it leads to the other problem, higher demand as compared to the supply, so that will push the price a bit higher. Okay, so this is the reason why it involves the poverty. So basically 1B, I'm talking about the relative poverty in the urban versus rural area. So higher prices also will lead to the poverty. And number two, we're talking about education standard among the children of the poor are quite low, and this happened because some of these poor people, they live in the rural area that far from the schools, and the environment itself did not encourage them to focus on the studies or the education. They have parents that work as a farmers or maybe as a fisherman. They live a hard life. So maybe they have their parents to do job, and they cannot pay attention on the education. And some parents also don't really think that education is important for the children. So what happens if they don't have the good education background? In the future they cannot find a better paid job, so they will live in poverty for generation. So this is what we call poverty that inherited from their parents. So this also lead to the cause of poverty. Number three, we're talking about lack of opportunity, especially in the urban area. Increase in the urban population coupled with limited growth in job opportunity in certain industry, render people unemployed and poor. And this actually caused by the industry that hire foreign workers, and this actually lead to unemployment among the local peoples. So this is not good for the economy, but somehow the firm they prefer to hire the foreign workers because you can pay them cheaper. But on the other hand, they lead to the poverty in the urban area. And number four, depressed labor market. So here I'm talking about industry over dependence on foreign labor created depression on the wage rate, because when we hire the foreign workers, we know that we can pay them cheap, and the wage rate will remain there for maybe for let's say 10-20 years. Okay, because you can hire them with a cheaper price. There's no reason for you to increase the wage rate. So this actually will lead to what we call a depressed labor market. Okay, and what does it mean by that? Meaning that the wage rate is too low. So if it is too low, then it leads to the poverty. And number five, inflationary pressure. Here I'm talking about increase in general price of goods and services due to factors such as urbanization, increase in imported inflation, weak exchange rate, increase in interest rate, so on and so forth. Okay, so I think you have learned this one in your macroeconomics. So this actually damaging the poor people. Alright. Okay, so I think I'm done with the causes. So let's talk about the solution. What can we suggest in terms of program that, or maybe measures to solve the problem of poverty? Okay, number one, the government introduced what we call the development of hardcore poor program. Okay, so basically you familiar with what we call PPRT, the words that we call PPRT. So the program is specifically for the hardcore poor was introduced in 1988, and in English we call it Development Program for the Hardcore Poor. In Bahasa it is called Program Pembangunan Rakyat dan Miskin (PPRT). So in this program, it involved the creation of register and profile the hardcore poor people, and the delivery of appropriate project to meet their specific needs. Okay, such as let's say we give them employability and income, we provide them with better housing, food supplement for the children, education assistance. So let's talk about the better housing. We have the PPRT housing, okay, low cost housing that designed to help the poor people. We also have RMT, rancangan makanan tambahan for the children, for the people in the schools. So this is actually a form of the what you call program pembangunan rakyat dan miskin. Right. Number two, we also can solve the problem of poverty by providing the job opportunity, especially job that actually pay high what you call high wage. So the primary strategies that provide opportunity to the poor to be involved of or gain employment in the higher job or activity, so that they could become self-supporting and increase their income to exceed the poverty line income, the PLI. Alright. So example here, we modernize the traditional method in agriculture because agriculture is associated with the poverty, and this poverty are caused by the lack of technology. Okay, so we need to tackle the problem by modernizing the traditional methods. Number two, we provide them with support and opportunity to be involved in modern farming in value-added processing of agricultural products. So I'm talking about rather than selling the raw material, we process the raw material into the finished good and sell it. A very simple example, I think, is let's say we're talking about the let's say we talk about the uh, uh, goods like paddy. Okay, so you process paddy, you package it. Okay, so it become a rice. So that's what we call a value added, and we can give you on examples. And number three, better town planning. Here we are talking about the government need to initiate a good or better town planning. So we plan on the public land. The plan on the public land should ensure that a high proportion of the project will directly benefit the poor. Okay, so we need to provide the public goods such as school, clinic, libraries, so on and so forth. So directly, this will help the people, and not to mention about the what you call the transportation. Okay, so this will lower the cost of living of people in the urban area. Okay, basically you try to integrate every single things public infrastructure that you have, and they are reachable to the public. Okay, number four, we provide loan for the small businesses. So here we provide the people that who wants to start or to have business through the loan support or credit support. So we have many financial institutions such as let's say we talk about the SME bank, we have the agro bank, and in fact we have a specific design institution to help the poor such as the Kun. So basically they will provide the poor people with capital and also maybe business plan and help them to build the what you call a good business entity, right? And the last but not least, I think, is education facility. So talking about education facility, I think it's best for us to look at the schools and the university. So what we need to do is actually we must make sure that our primary and secondary school near to the houses, and in addition, we provide with the various kind of education assistance such as scholarship, textbook, food, and uniform. So, in fact, in higher learning institution, they provide you with PT and MARA, so on and so forth, in terms of facilitating the poor people, not poor people to have good education attainment. So I think that's it for our lecture. So in our next lecture, we will discuss about the second part of this chapter. Alright, so that's it for today. Thank you all, and see you again.